Rik Smits was a towering center at 7'4" who had a soft touch with good mobility for his size, scoring majority of his points on jump shots and post-ups relying on his hook shot, while also throwing it down regularly, earning the nickname the Dunking Dutchman, playing his whole entire career with the Indiana Pacers as the second option to Reggie Miller, helping guide the team to multiple deep postseason runs, putting up multiple highlights along the way, like his buzzer beater against Orlando in the conference finals, before injuries ended his career early like it does for most bigs. This is a look back on Rik Smits' career. Rik Smits was born and raised in Eindhoven, Netherlands, and Smits at an early age was tall, but did not pick up the game of basketball until the age of 14, participating in other sports like judo as his dad was a judo champion in Europe. Rik Smits started to develop in basketball, wanting to go to the States to play his ball, and he would be introduced to a college coach recruiting in the area from Marist, who decided to take a gamble on Smits, offering him a scholarship despite never seeing him play a single minute of basketball in person, because you simply cannot teach Smits' height as he stood 7'4". Rik Smits, his freshman year at Marist, came off the bench to start before an injury to a teammate thrust him into the starting lineup, where Smits played solid, averaging 11.2 points, 2.6 blocks, and 5.6 rebounds, winning the ECAC Metro Newcomer of the Year award for his play, with Smits helping the team win the ECAC Metro regular season championship, yet missed the NCAA tournament as it was a one big league with the conference tournament champ making the NCAA tournament. In his sophomore season, Rik Smits became the number one option on Marist, taking his game to another level, leading the team with 17.7 points, 2.7 blocks, and 8.1 rebounds, becoming an all-conference player, while Smits this season led Marist to an ECAC Metro Conference Tournament Championship, propelling Marist to their first ever NCAA tournament berth in school history. Marist entered the tournament as a 15 seed, getting a game against a talented Georgia Tech team with 5 future NBA players led by Mark Price. Smits played well on the big stage, scoring 22 points, but Georgia Tech was a deeper team, winning the game comfortably. Rik Smits entering his junior season only continued his growth as a player, averaging 20.1 points, 4 blocks, and 8.1 rebounds, as Smits would win the ECAC Metro Player of the Year award, as he led Marist to a conference regular season and tournament championship, making it back to the NCAA tournament as a 14 seed this time, where Marist got blown out by Charles Smith in Pittsburgh. Rik Smits at this time was starting to gain interest from the NBA, but would return for his senior season at Marist. In Smits' senior year would improve again, averaging 24.7 points, 3.9 blocks, and 8.7 rebounds, picking up another Conference Player of the Year for his play as Marist became conference regular season champs again, but they would get upset in the conference tournament, seeing Marist miss the NCAA tournament. Rik Smits had ended his college career as Marist's best school player in its history, while playing for the best teams in school history. Rik Smits entering the NBA draft was a top prospect as centers were dominant in the league, and Smits proving himself more than capable, having a soft touch and his mobility for his height, but some considered him to be quite a prospect, needing time to develop, and his numbers were against poor competition. But in the 1988 NBA draft, with the second overall pick, the Indiana Pacers selected Rik Smits. Smits was joining a Pacers team led by a young duo of Reggie Miller and Chuck Persons. Initially, it looked like Rik Smits was going to come off the bench for Steve Stepanovic, but Stepanovic picked up a career-ending injury, thrusting Smits into the starting lineup right away, where he had averaged 11.7 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks, earning all rookie first-team honors. All the while, the Pacers weren't doing that great, but they were rebuilding in the right direction, mid-season trading Herb Williams for Detlef Schrempf and a second-round pick that will come into play later. The Indiana Pacers in Rik Smits' rookie year went 28-54, missing the playoffs. Rik Smits' next season took on even more minutes as a starter, increasing his numbers to 15.5 points, 6.2 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks. And Smits wasn't the only Pacer improving, as Schrempf and Miller were starting to have breakout seasons, helping the Pacers go 42-40, making the playoffs as an 8 seed, getting a matchup against a loaded Bad Boys Pistons team with Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer, Vinnie Johnson, Mark Aguirre, and Dennis Rodman, and the series was rather lopsided as a result, as the Pistons were more experienced and physical, and the physicality over the series affected Smits in particular, with his numbers dropping compared to the regular season to average 12.3 points, 1.3 blocks, and 5.3 rebounds as the Pistons swept the Pacers. After this, entering next season, Smits would lose the starting center position to LaSalle Thompson, who was more physical and a better rebounder than Smits, which were two things he struggled from time to time with throughout his entire career, resulting in Rik Smits' numbers dropping to 10.9 points, 1.5 blocks, and 4.7 rebounds. Meanwhile, Indiana went 41-41, making the playoffs as a 7 seed, getting a matchup against the Boston Celtics, who were led by Larry Bird, Reggie Lewis, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. But despite being predicted to not compete with the Celtics, the Pacers did, seeing the series tied up after 4 games thanks to 2 big games from Chuck Person. Game 5 was close to start before Larry Bird went down with his head bouncing against the floor, getting his bell rung, which through a modern lens clearly picked up a concussion. With Bird out, the Pacers started to pull away. Then all of a sudden, coming out of the tunnel was Larry Bird, who was already giving it all, playing through a back injury, entered back into the game, sparking a rally, seeing the Boston Celtics win the game and the series. Rik Smits in the series found himself playing even less minutes compared to the regular season, putting up averages of 9.8 points, 1.4 blocks, and 3.6 rebounds. In the offseason, the Pacers drafted well, selecting Dale Davis, who would complement Smits well, as Davis was physical and a solid rebounder. Helping in parts, Rik Smits earned some more playing time back entering next year, as Smits found himself splitting time starting and coming off the bench to average 13.8 points, 1.4 blocks, and 5.6 rebounds this season. Meanwhile, the Pacers were in a similar situation, going 40-42, barely making it into the playoffs to face the Boston Celtics again. Larry Bird this time missed the entire series with an injury, but that did not seem to slow down the Celtics, as Reggie Lewis took over, guiding the Celtics to a sweep of the Pacers. Over the series, Rik Smits played sparingly as he was dealing with an injury, as he went on to play 9.3 minutes a night, putting up numbers of 3.3 points and 2 rebounds against Boston. In the offseason, the Pacers traded away Chuck Person, making the team Reggie Miller's in an attempt to make it out of the first round. Around this time, Smits was also getting a lot of criticism for not living up to the second overall pick and not consistently earning starts. Rik Smits started to quiet some of these notions next season, becoming the full-time starting center going forward, developing into the third option on the team to Miller and Shrimp, with Rik Smits averaging 14.3 points, 0.9 blocks, and 5.3 rebounds, helping the Pacers go 41-41, getting into the playoffs as an 8 seed, facing the New York Knicks round 1, led by Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Anthony Mason, and Charles Oakley. The series was a physical one, helping set the tone for a future rivalry as each team picked up hard fouls and technicals throughout. But outside of Game 3, it was all New York who were deeper, winning the series 3-1. Rik Smits against Ewing this series surprised people, matching his production throughout, averaging 22.5 points, 1 block, and 8 rebounds over the series, helping start to shed any bust label, as it was clear Smits was going to be playing a big part of the Pacers moving forward. In the offseason, the Pacers traded away Detlef Schrempf to Seattle for Derek McKee, as they needed his defensive presence. On top of this, second-round pick from the other year from the Herb Williams deal signed, being a steal in Antonio Davis. After the moves, Rik Smits was now the second option on the team, becoming a leader on it, as Rik Smits this year averaged 15.7 points, 6.2 rebounds, and 1.1 blocks. And Smits' improvement this year in the team having a better defensive and physical presence with the Davis Bros and McKee, the Pacers took a next step to the next level, going 47-35, getting a 5 seed. Round 1, the Pacers faced the Orlando Magic, headed by Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, Dennis Scott, and Nick Anderson. The Pacers entered the series as underdogs, but hanged around early in Game 1 against Orlando, as Miller was starting to look like a superstar caliber player, where the Pacers would win the game late when Byron Scott hit a 3 with 2 seconds remaining to win the game. Game 2, the Pacers won as well in a close one, as Reggie Miller got hot again, before the Pacers stunned the Magic, sweeping them comfortably in Game 3. Round 2, the Pacers entered as underdogs again, meeting the 1-seeded Atlanta Hawks with Danny Manning, Kevin Willis, and Mookie Blaylock. The Pacers again surprised, jumping out to a 2-1 lead as Rik Smits led the way in Game 3 with 27 points. The Pacers proceeded to win Game 4 convincingly, needing one more win to advance, and in Game 6, Rik Smits helped the Pacers get that win, leading them again with 27 points. The Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, to no surprise, met the New York Knicks. The series started out with home court playing a big factor, with the series being tied up after Game 4. Game 5, the Knicks went up early before Reggie Miller took over, being encouraged by Spike Lee's antics. resulting in a Pacers win. The Pacers only needed one more win to make it to the NBA Finals, and headed back home for Game 6 it looked likely. But the Pacers faltered, dropping Game 6 at home as Starks played well. Game 7 was a tight one back in New York as Miller and Ewing went back and forth before the Knicks pulled away just at the end on a Ewing dunk, sending the Pacers home. Though a disappointing end to the season, the Pacers had put the league on notice moving forward. Rik Smits over the run to the Eastern Conference Finals played a big part, averaging 16 points and 5.3 rebounds. And in the offseason, the Pacers continued to make improvements to the team, trading for Mark Jackson. Smits and the Pacers had new expectations entering next season, and Rik Smits delivered, elevating his play again to average 17.9 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 1 block a night, propelling the Pacers to a strong regular season, going 52-30, getting the 2 seed, facing the Atlanta Hawks round 1, who are now headed by Steve Smith and Mookie Blaylock, where the Pacers took care of business, sweeping the Hawks as Smits finished the series off with a strong game of 17 points and 14 rebounds. Round 2, the Pacers met their foe in the New York Knicks. Game 1 was an all-time classic. The Pacers were barely hanging in the game thanks to a big performance from Rik Smits, who scored 34 points in the Game 1. But as the Pacers trailed, Reggie Miller pulled off the improbable, scoring 8 points in 9 seconds, stealing Game 1. The Pacers would go on to win 2 of the next 3 games, going up 3-1 thanks to Rik Smits, who had recorded a game high of 25 points and 11 rebounds in Game 4. Rik Smits continued this strong form going into Game 5, scoring 28 points, with the Pacers looking like they were about to advance. But Patrick Ewing proceeded to extend the series, hitting a game winner with 1.8 seconds remaining. Game 6 was back in Indiana, however the Pacers struggled as Patrick Ewing forced a Game 7. Game 7 was a tightly contested one with Ewing and Miller again going back and forth. The Pacers held the lead late by 1, yet the Knicks had the ball, and went to Patrick Ewing again in a clutch moment in a similar situation to Game 5. This time though, Ewing stunningly missed the shot and the Pacers were on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Awaiting them in the conference finals were the Orlando Magic, who had improved since the last playoff matchup with the addition of Horace Grant and the growth of its young core. The Magic jumped out to a 2-0 lead as Shaq was difficult for Smits to handle, but Indiana bounced back, winning Game 3. Game 4 was close as the Pacers were managing to slow down Shaq, who was in foul trouble, and in the final minutes of the game it was wild with 4 lead changes late in the final 13 seconds, with Brian Shaw starting things off hitting a 3. And as per usual in the clutch moments, the Pacers went to Reggie Miller, who hit a 3 with 5.2 seconds left, switching the lead again. Then Penny Hardaway hit a contested 3, giving the Magic the lead with 1.3 seconds left. The Pacers this time in the clutch moment with 1.3 remaining went a different route than normal, throwing the ball into Rik Smits, who would pump fake and hit a buzzer beater, tying the series up, with the shot going down as the Memorial Day miracle. Game 5, Shaq did not get into foul trouble, guiding the Magic to a victory. Game 6, the Pacers blew out the Magic behind Reggie Miller's play. In Game 7, the Magic responded, doing what the Pacers just did to the Magic, blowing them out, sending them home soundly. Over the postseason, Rik Smits was a large part and reason for the Pacers' success, as he averaged 20.1 points and 7 rebounds. Next season, Rik Smits continued his strong form to average 18.5 points and 6.9 rebounds. However, he only went for 63 games, as injuries moving forward in his career would affect his play, in particular with nerve damage in his feet. With Smits out a couple of games, the Pacers still finished strong, going 52-30, getting a 3 seed. Again meeting the Atlanta Hawks round 1 of the playoffs. The Pacers would have entered this series as favorites, but Miller was out with an eye injury, and Steve Smith elevated his play this series, smelling blood in the water with Miller out, forcing the series to go to a Game 5. With the season on the line, Miller returned for Game 5, as Reggie Miller played great, not seeming to be bothered by the injury. But the Hawks still hanged around and held the lead throughout, finishing the Pacers off as Reggie Miller missed the buzzer beater. The Pacers were upset and stunned round 1. Rik Smits did his best part this series to keep the team afloat as they missed Miller, averaging 19 points and 7.4 rebounds. Next year, Rik Smits looked solid again, averaging 17.1 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 1.1 blocks in his limited time on the court, as he only managed to go for 52 games, causing the Pacers to struggle, missing his presence. With the team struggling, the Pacers made a move for the future, trading away Mark Jackson to the Nuggets for Jalen Rose. but this was not enough as the team really missed Rik Smits, going 39-43, missing the playoffs. In the offseason, the Pacers knew they had to mix things up, so they did somewhat. The Pacers traded back for Mark Jackson to be the point guard again, and traded for Chris Mullin to be the team's new small forward as McKee struggled to play consistently with injuries moving forward. Fortunately, next year Rik Smits was healthy most of next season, as he looked strong still, averaging 16.7 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks. And even though it was not his best career year statistically, Smits had earned a place in the All-Star game finally, where he looked solid in the game, putting up 10 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. With Rik Smits back and the offseason moves paying off, the Pacers looked good again, going 58-24, making the playoffs as a 3 seed, meeting the Sean Kemp and Zydrunas Ilgauskas-led Cavaliers round 1. Sean Kemp would give the Pacers fits throughout the series, looking like the best player on the court, but Indiana was a deeper team, winning the series comfortably 3-1. Round 2, the Pacers met the Knicks, who had changed since their last playoff matchup as its initial core was now aged, with the team now headed by Allen Houston and Larry Johnson. With the series not being as close as the prior years, as the Pacers looked in command from the get-go, advancing 4-1, with Rik Smits' best game of the series being Game 2 as he led the team to a victory with a game-high 22 points. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Pacers faced the Chicago Bulls, with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. The Bulls jumped out to a strong start in the series, winning the first 2 games behind big games from Jordan. Game 3 was back in Indiana as the team thrived off home court, winning late thanks to none other than Reggie Miller. Game 4 was tight late Game 3 as Rik Smits led the team with 26 points. The Pacers seemed to have lost the game as Pippen went to the free throw line to put the game out of reach, but Pippen surprisingly missed both free throws, giving the Pacers a chance. And a chance was all Reggie Miller needed as he shoved off Jordan, hitting the shot with 0.7 seconds left to take the lead. But Larry Bird, as did most, knew the game wasn't over with Jordan on the other team, where Jordan got the final shot off with it looking like it was going to fall but just missed, seeing the series tied up. Back in Chicago, the Bulls handled the Pacers, going up 3-2. Game 6, the Pacers extended the series as they won late on free throws from Travis Best and a defensive stop on Jordan from McKee. Game 7, the Pacers went up early in the first before Jordan pulled the Bulls back into the game. Early parts of the fourth, it looked like the Pacers were in control of the game and about to dethrone the Bulls. Then all of a sudden, momentum shifted and the Bulls went on a run to finish the game off, sending the Pacers home packing. Over the postseason, Rik Smits kept up his regular season form, averaging 16.6 points and 5.3 rebounds. Next season, Rik Smits started to play less minutes as he was aging, on top of having bad feet. But Smits was still starting and playing well, being the second leading scorer on the team with 14.9 points, along with averaging 1.1 blocks and 5.6 rebounds, helping the Pacers in the lockout-shortened season go 33-17, getting a number 2 seed. Round 1, the Pacers played the Milwaukee Bucks with Ray Allen, Glenn Robinson, and Sam Cassell. The Pacers managed to sweep the Bucks 3-0, but it had its scares throughout, in particular in Game 2, winning late thanks to a tip-in from Dale Davis. Round 2, the Pacers matched up against the 76ers with Allen Iverson, where Iverson played phenomenal over the series, making games close, but he lacked a supporting cast as the Pacers swept the 76ers. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Pacers met the New York Knicks, who had improved since the prior playoff series, adding Latrell Sprewell and Marcus Camby. The Pacers dropped Game 1 at home before tying the series up in Game 2 as Patrick Ewing missed a wide-open jump shot at the buzzer. Game 3, it looked as though the Pacers were going to take back control of the series, being up 3 late. Then all of a sudden, Larry Johnson got fouled on a 3-point shot, hitting the shot, and had won the Knicks the game on a 4-point play. The Pacers bounced back, winning Game 4 thanks to Jalen Rose, but went on to drop the next 2 games again, being sent home in the Eastern Conference Finals to the underdog Knicks. In the playoffs, Rik Smits continued to take on a smaller role, averaging 11.8 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks. In the offseason, the Pacers traded away Antonio Davis for Jonathan Bender in hopes of his high potential. Rik Smits next season continued to play less minutes, being slowed by foot pain, but still managed to play almost the entirety of the season to average 12.9 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks. Meanwhile, the Pacers still looked strong as Jalen Rose was having a breakout season, propelling the Pacers to a 56-26 record in the 1 seed. and for the second straight year, the Pacers played the Bucks round 1. This time, the Bucks provided more fits thanks to Ray Allen forcing the series to go to a Game 5. Game 5 was close, but Reggie Miller scored a career and franchise playoff record and high, keeping the Pacers in the game. Before the Pacers put away the Bucks late on a 3 from Travis Best, winning the series 3-2. Next round continued the same format as the other year, playing the Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers did manage to put up a better fight this time as Iverson was improving, but the 76ers still lacked talent around him and struggled to slow down either Rose or Miller throughout the series as the Pacers won 4-2. The Pacers had made it back to the Eastern Conference Finals to get another shot at the New York Knicks. The series started off with home court advantage playing a big factor as the Pacers were up 3-2 after 5 games, with the home team always winning. But in Game 6 that changed as Reggie Miller had put up a big fourth quarter, pushing the Pacers into the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history, where they'd be meeting the Los Angeles Lakers with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. The Lakers went up early in the series 2-0 on the Pacers as Shaq was unstoppable. The Pacers pulled one back Game 3 as Reggie Miller got hot and Kobe Bryant was out injured. Game 4 was a battle as Smits was playing like his prime, scoring 24 points, pushing the game to overtime, where the Lakers went on to win the game on a putback from Kobe and a miss at the buzzer from Miller. Game 5, the Pacers would win rather soundly, making the series 2-3, but things came to an end in Game 6 as Shaq continued his super form throughout the series, guiding the Lakers to an NBA championship. Over the postseason run to the NBA Finals, Rik Smits had averaged 11 points and 3.5 rebounds. After the year, Rik Smits' time in the league had come to an end, deciding to retire with injuries playing a large factor. Rik Smits, over 12 years in the NBA, averaged 14.8 points, 6.1 rebounds, 1.3 blocks while shooting 50.7% from the field. Rik Smits will be remembered as a Pacers fan favorite, playing his whole entire career with the team, being the second option on the team to Reggie Miller, helping the Pacers make multiple deep postseason runs, with Smits' most memorable moment on those runs being a buzzer beater against the Magic in the postseason. Rik Smits was known for having a soft touch for a big man, hitting a high percentage of his shots, having the capability to hit jumpers and take someone to the post, favoring his hook shot, helping Smits earn an all-star appearance even though he probably should have had more, but he was playing in an era with a lot of dominant bigs, while also being known for throwing it down regularly, earning his nickname the Dunking Dutchman. Thanks for watching this video on Rik Smits' career. If you want to see any other videos about any other random NBA players in the future, leave them in the comments below and I may or may not decide to do them. Who knows? Thanks again for watching. This has been Skid Denver.